Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing another ballpoint pen drawing. Not sure why I decided to go back to using something I used to use in high school and college all the time when I wouldn't be really interested in the lecture. But here we are, we're using it again. As you can see, I'm also using a glorious mechanical pencil I got from the back to school aisle. And no, I'm not going back to school, I'm 24. I use these because I believe regular pencils are inferior, and these are always sharp and pointy, and they're great. So, you know, I don't like sharpening pencils. That's a very long-winded way of me saying I don't like regular pencils. So right now I'm just sketching out my design. So what I did first was I used Photoshop and I put together a cool little design, little thing. And I'm just looking at it and, well, sketching out the proportions and all that jazz. After that, I started to just cross-hatch with the ballpoint pen. Something I love so much about ballpoint pens is that they have almost like a pencil-like quality with them, but it's ink. You're able to get a really smooth gradient with them, and you can shade a lot more smooth than if you were to use something like a micron. A micron pen, those types of pens, they hold a lot more ink and they come in different sizes. So they're really good for more graphic looking artwork, or if you're doing pointillism, that's another good pen to use. But with something like this, with gradients, ballpoint is the best. When you're using this type of a medium, you're gonna want to go light at first and then dark. I kind of went a little too heavy-handed with this entire drawing. I mean, it turned out okay, but like, of course I can see my own mistakes, so like whatever. But typically you want to start very light and work your way into the darks. I actually wound up using a separate type of pen to go back into the shadows to really enhance the darkest darks. Another thing, note to self, future self, for my next ballpoint drawing, which I'm probably going to do another one because I love these, cross hatch with the contours. What does that mean? Okay, so do you see how, for instance, the rosebud I was just working on, the petals kind of form out, they dome out a bit, but I used straight lines to crosshatch and shade, which is fine. It still looks kind of round from like the shading I created, but something that would really make the shadows a lot smoother and the gradients a lot more realistic looking is if you are more intentional and follow a direction with how you're shading. So with the eye, for instance, instead of how I did straight lines to shade the contours of around the eye, I should have gone along the curve of the eye rather than using straight lines. So just a note for future self and anyone else watching, that will really take the shading to another level. So I wound up actually taking my advice I mentioned earlier and followed the direction of the contours with my shading and my cross-hatching lines to create more of a domed appearance with the rose leaves. Also, this is the part where I'm getting pretty heavy-handed with the shading and all that. And then I realized, oh, what do I do now? Because it's kind of all melding together. I was like, ooh, whoops. So I later just BS'd it and used another pen, which I have a lot to say about these pens I'm about to use. I'll show them to you in a minute. Like I said earlier about starting light and then going dark. Yeah, I finally did that with the rose up top. I went a lot lighter. I'm like, okay, we're not gonna go just straight for the shadow. And I actually wound up, like, this was one of my favorite parts of the drawing overall, was this rose. I don't know, like, if I was just stuck in painting brain, because with painting, you want to, like, color block, specifically with, like, oils or, I mean, whatever, anything you really do painting-wise. You just want to color block so that you can block in, like, okay, this is the general color of this area, and then that's the general highlight color. And so you kind of go with like the most contrasting colors at first, and I think I accidentally started doing that. I don't know, just really weird to watch. I'm not trying to roast myself, I'm just being honest. I like honesty, so I'm just, you know, I just like showing my process, because I think a lot of people watch artists do things and they're like, whoa, you know, but they don't really see like my thought process, or like you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's good to like show your mistakes and like how you fix them, because I think other people can learn from that better, rather than just being like, oh, look at this pretty drawing I made. Alright, around this point of the drawing, I start using another pen that I mentioned earlier for the darkest darks. I found a really good use for it, specifically just for that. It is considered a ballpoint pen, but let me tell you why it's different. But first, a very quick rant. Sorry. I was looking everywhere for an archival ballpoint pen. And not document grade, you know, there's a huge difference. Archival is important because if you want to sell an original drawing or an original painting, you need to have inks or pigments that are going to withstand the test of time and light. And archival ink does just that. It ages really nicely. It's not like your typical homework ballpoint pen, and over time, when you draw with it, it will turn different colors. That's happened to me before. So I bought these thinking, wow, finally, I can sell my ballpoint drawings and have the original and everything's all good, right? No, I got 3 12 packs of each color. And let me tell you, I tried doing a whole drawing with them, but actually I tried doing this drawing before I did this version of it. I tried doing another version of it just using the other pen, and it was a disaster. Did not give you the light gradients. You could not do light shading with it. It was just very inky, and I think it's because the ink is a hybrid of whatever's in a regular ballpoint pen and oil ink. And that's what makes it last a long time. Well, it doesn't behave the same way. and it blotted ink everywhere, and it was just all bad. It was all bad news. Really disappointing, but now I have 36 pens and I found one use for them, so that's good, I guess. Oh my gosh. I was so upset. Now, something I want to point out, what I would consider a mistake I want to point out for learning purposes, is this rose I was working on. I was not happy with it. I used a reference photo, and it was one of those reference photos that had more exposure on it, so you can't get the full detail of what's going on, but I used it because it had the same light source. However, it was one of those roses where it was in its half blooming stage, and there was just a lot of paper thin petals condensed on each other. So it was really, really hard to try and distinguish each individual petal, and I kind of just went on my imagination on that one, and it wound up, you know, not being totally accurate proportionally, you know? So just when you use a reference photo, make sure it's something that is very readable to you and it's something that you can visually understand. Because if you use something that you have to rely more on your imagination with, you're not going to get the outcome that you want. The more reference you can get, the better. Also, for an eye, I usually put a highlight that goes over the pupil a little bit because I think it looks really glassy and it gives the illusion that there's like a layer of moistness. Ew. Over the eye. I think they do that in anime a lot. I don't know, I like it. So, yeah. Then I went in with a highlight pen and just made little details of highlights with that. And that is the end of this drawing. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and come back again soon for more drawing videos. Bye!